Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good today. Just back out in the tackle room here for another fishing tip. And before we get started today, I just wanted to thank everybody yesterday for the comments. You know, I did that video yesterday that got interrupted by the phone call and I lost half my video. And everybody said, put your phone on airplane mode. So that's what I've done today, so we shouldn't get interrupted. A couple different things before we get started here. Johnny and I tonight, if you got some time tonight between 7 to 8:30, go on fishthemoment.com. You can listen to our podcast. We're going to be doing a live podcast tonight between 7 and 8:30 on wintertime jig fishing. Should be interested. And also, we have our advanced online jerkbait seminar, virtual seminar coming up this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. And I think Johnny said we've got 4 or 5 slots open left for that thing. So if you guys are interested, go sign up on fishthemoment.com for the advanced jerkbait seminar Thursday. But today, like I said, today's tip, I'm doing a lot of these tips on the feedback I'm getting from my subscribers. And one of the tips I had yesterday, or one of the suggestions one of my subscribers had, is they want to know, have a little conversation on color. You know, how to choose the proper color on your soft plastics. And this is a great question because color has a lot to do with it. I mean, I think a lot of people in their bass fishing, they think that they want to simplify everything. It's like people, they get caught up on, yeah, I'm going to throw a green pumpkin and a black and blue and maybe a watermelon. And, you know, those are good choices and they'll catch fish under a lot of different conditions. But there's also a lot more variables to consider when you're determining water, you know, the type of color or soft plastic lure to use. The variables are endless. They include water clarity, they include time of the year, they include the species of fish you're fishing for, the time of day, the amount of light penetration in entering the water, the region of the country you're fishing. Some bodies of water are a little bit more acidic or tannic than others, and all that plays into choosing the right color. And you can get into an area, the thing about color is that color is all about maximizing the area that you're fishing. It's getting the most out of it, maximizing the full potential of that area to produce and put out as many and as big a bass as you can get. And while you can go through an area and you can get some bites on a lot of different colors, it's all about, like I said, becoming completely efficient, maximizing that potential that you have within that water. So today I sort of want to give you sort of my guidelines, what I go by when I'm choosing colors. And I'm going to start out here. I'm going to go with all the Zoom trick worms just because they got a lot of different colors. And we'll start out with the first one. It's just solid black. A solid black color, this is a color that goes back over 50 years. It used to be one of the most popular colors out there. It used to be, back when I was a kid, black and purple worms were about the only 2 colors you had. Black is a highly effective bait. It's a highly effective color in a wide range of conditions. And when I'm talking about the colors, I'm not just talking about the trick worms. I'm talking about any soft plastic. But the guidelines I have for using black is this. I like to use black if the water visibility is less than 6 inches. Black really throws off a big silhouette. They can find the bait. It works really good in off-colored water. It also works really good early in the morning. You know, when you have low light conditions, black is a really good color. And on top of that, the direct opposite, which is sort of a paradox in the two, the other times that I find out that black works really, really good is in super, super clear water. It's like either that water visibility that's less than 6 inches or water visibility that's like 10 foot or greater. One of the biggest, you know, it's not really secret because a lot of guys do, but one of the biggest things that we use here in the Ozarks is we'll use like a solid black crawfish imitation or plastic worm or whatever, down on lakes like Bull Shoals and Table Rock in that super, super clear water. And for some reason, you know, that'll add up to a few more fish. But basically my guideline for black is most of the time 6-inch visibility or less. The next one, we'll go start out with some darker colors here. There's 2 other colors I use in a dark colored soft plastic. One is a June bug, which is right here, and the other is a red bug. You can see those two different colors right there. June bug and red bug, to me, they're really good anytime you're fishing around a lake that has some type of aquatic vegetation. That vegetation can be hydrilla, milfoil, peppergrass, whatever the lake you have in there. Even if you're in the central part of the country where you don't have a lot of natural submergent grass, any type of flooded grass, you know, your flooded water willows, stuff like that. When I'm thinking about June bug and red bug, there's usually always vegetation around that. There's just something about those two colors that the bass run vegetation like. Also, I find out that June bug and red bug work really good when you're fishing deep water. It's one of my favorite colors to fish, like a big worm, I fish a big 10 and 12-inch old monster a lot in the June bug and red bug colors. For some reason, when you're talking about water temperatures over 75 degrees, and when those bass are like over 10 foot deep, like 10 to 25 foot deep, the June bug and the red bug colors will really produce well under those conditions. I don't use them much for like fishing around hard cover, like docks or stumps or lay down, stuff like that. It just seems, not that you can't catch them on it, you can, but my guideline for the June bug and the red bug is deep water or grass fishing. Now, the next ones we get into are the ones probably people more use than anything else, are the more natural greens. And, you know, you've got your standard, your green pumpkin, and you've got your watermelon colors, and then you've got some variations of green pumpkins, like with some different type of fleck in it, you know, purple fleck, blue fleck, whatever like that. And as you can see, here's just a straight green pumpkin, and here is the green pumpkin purple right here. And while they look similar, there's a little bit of differences. The green pumpkin is actually a little bit more subtle than the green pumpkin that has flake in it. If I'm using, we'll talk first about green pumpkins. If I'm in my standard go-to green pumpkin watercolor, which is anywhere between like, say 2 to 4 foot of visibility, that's what I like green pumpkin in. Most of the time I'm using, you know, just a straight green pumpkin. You know, it's a little bit more subtle, just seems like I get a few more bites on it. But if I'm fishing an area that has like, you know, maybe 18 inches of visibility, you know, 18 inches, 2 foot of visibility, maybe it's cloudy out, windy a little bit, I go to the green pumpkin with the flake in it because it's a little bit darker. It's still a subtle color, but it's just, as you can see here, it's just a little bit darker. And that darker color makes it stand out a little bit more in that water visibility that's a little bit dirtier, or on the days that your light penetration is a little bit lower due to wind, sun angle, the amount of clouds that you have in there. That's my general rule with that. You can't go wrong with green pumpkin. Any type of green pumpkin variety, whether it's straight green pumpkin or flake, it'll catch bass in dirty water, clear water, whatever. But I think a lot of people get hung up on green pumpkin a little bit too much, simply because it is such an effective color. But it's there's other colors that can maximize it. And the last color that I'm using are the watermelon hues. You know, this right here, watermelon purple glitter. You can get watermelon red, different types of watermelons with flake on it. Watermelon colors work really good in clear water. This is fairly common knowledge. Most of the time when I'm thinking about watermelon, I'm talking about water clarities with visibilities over 3 feet. And, you know, really good for finesse fishing, drop shot, shaky head, wacky rig, that type of stuff. But watermelons are always going to get bites, more bites in clear water. Another thing that you have to consider here is the type of water that you're fishing, because water clarity is also relative to the type of water that you have. For example, if you're fishing a lake like certain parts of Lake Toho in Florida, or maybe some of the interior portions of Lake Okeechobee, where you have this tannic black water. The water is clear, but it's got a black tannic look to it. If you're fishing a lake that has tannic acid water, which in a lot of lakes that have vegetation in it, not just Florida lakes, but even some lakes in the south with hydrilla, if you're fishing a lake that has a tannic water look to it, you're going to find out that the June bugs and the watermelons work really good in tannic water. And for whatever reason, I mean, I have seen this time and time again. You can't go wrong in tannic water with the June bug or watermelon. If you got a little bit of stain to the tannic water, that's when I go to the June bug, or if it's cloudy early in the morning. But if it's clear, if it's that clear black looking tannic water, bright sunny days, you can't go wrong with the watermelon. That's a really good color with that. But anyway, color is relative. One of the things that I would suggest in your color selection is don't try to oversimplify it too much. I hear guys saying all the time, well, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to go, I use green pumpkin and I use black and blue. And yeah, that's an effective way, but I'm telling you, you're gonna miss out on a lot of extra strikes if you don't experiment with colors. Another thing you can do with colors is, if you're getting a few bites in an area, you can also maximize that area by simply switching up colors, even though the color may not seem what it should be. If you're on, for example, if you're fishing a TVA lake and you're on a school of fish and you got that school fired up on a June bug worm, and all of a sudden that school quits biting, throw a green pumpkin or black in there. Sometimes that'll fire up a few more fish in there. And finally, one of the last things I want to talk about is dyes. Dyes, when you're talking about soft plastics, and this will probably be a topic for another video, but I use dyes all the time on my soft plastics, and not just chartreuse. A lot of people just think, when they're thinking about dyes, just think about straight chartreuse. I use reds, I use blues, I use green pumpkins, I use oranges, I use a lot of different mix to it. And what I'm trying to do with dyes is I'm trying to get that bait to stand out just a little bit more in the water. I want it to be subtle. Yes, I want it to stand out a little bit more. But more importantly is when I use dye, I know that gives me a look that you can't buy from the package. Most people that get their plastic worms, they're going to the big retailers and buying them, and everybody's using the same colors. You're using the green pumpkins, the watermelons, the black and blues. Just simply by adding some type of dye to your worms is going to add up to a lot more strikes too. And there's very seldom that I fish a plastic worm that I don't dye if it's a natural color. If I'm fishing a watermelon or a green pumpkin, I'm normally got some type of orange or chartreuse or blue or something like that on it. And the same on my jig trailers. I use dyes extensively on my jig trailers. So anyway, it's just another aspect of fishing that makes that I always go back and say it's the most complicated sport in the world. When you've got so many variables in bass fishing, controlled and uncontrolled variables, and the colors is just one part of it. But anyway, I think it's important for anglers to know, it doesn't matter what your skill level is in fishing, you don't want to get overwhelmed or intimidated. And a lot of times when you're talking about colors, that's one of those areas that you can get intimidated because there's so many different color choices. But anyway, I hope that helps with you as far as narrowing it down a little bit. I think if you sort of, take my system into advice here, I think it'll at least get you pointed in the right direction, and then you can make your own modifications based upon your own specific situation. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Appreciate it, guys. If you like the video, please hit that subscribe and the like button. I'd really appreciate it. I'm coming up on 10,000 subscribers. Again, thank you very much for everybody that subscribed to my channel. I'm just overwhelmed with how much interest and support the channel's getting. And I'm doing it. It's fun, and it's all for you guys that are watching me. I mean, that's why I'm doing it, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate being a partner with me in this whole project. So anyway, talk to y'all later. We'll be back tomorrow with another tip. See you.